In a world where everyone's fighting for attention on
There's
LinkedIn,
1 billion users, 1 to 3% of people post on the platform.
one man has cracked the code on how businesses can make real money online.
Most people don't use it as a conversion channel. It's huge if you know what you're doing.
I'm Elliot Murray, and on this episode of Creators Who Convert, I sit down with Morgan J. Ingram, the mastermind behind sales at Google, Slack, HubSpot, and somebody who has an audience of over 175,000 followers.
Your job as a creator is to be a guide on the path to this mountain that you want to get to, and you're a little bit ahead of that person.
He's shattering conventional wisdom with a framework that lets you dominate LinkedIn.
The AMP social system is called the 5 C's. It's clarity, connect, conversations, comment, and then content.
The battle-tested formula that actually drives revenue.
Every post follows 4 things every single time. It's, do you have a good hook? Is there a good rehook? The meat, the value, the promise, and then the call to action.
As well as counterintuitive strategies that actually land you clients.
I posted about a pickleball update. Someone that was a potential client was like, I want to send you like a pickleball paddle, a shirt. I was like, all right, cool. And like, but that also re-sparked the conversation to close the deal.
Prepare for the LinkedIn playbook that's changing everything.
If you just share tactical information, there isn't anything that actually separates you from just an AI bot.
This is Creators Who Convert. Welcome to Creators Who Convert, the show where we dive into how successful creators actually drive revenue. I'm your host, Elliot. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Morgan Ingram. Morgan is one of the leading creators on LinkedIn. He's worked with amazing brands such as HubSpot, Slack, and Google to transform how their teams are appearing online, their LinkedIn presence, their sales driving, everything. I really wanted to have him on the show. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm excited to be here, man. Excited to dive in.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to have you. Morgan, I've been a big fan of your content for a while. I'm on the timeline. I just see your face appear, and I'm always glad when I see it. Walk me through your evolution, because I know that initially you were kind of just another sales rep. You kind of went from that sales rep role to becoming this kind of strategist for tech giants. What was that turning point to take you from point A to point B?
Yeah, man. So we'll just start with the first role that I had, which was an SDR. So sales development rep, for those who know who it is, it's a hunter. You're doing cold calls, cold emails, cold LinkedIn outbound, etc. First 3 months, I was not good at all. I was really bad. And I never hit my quota for like 3 months. So then at the end of the third month, I was talking to my VP of sales about quitting and doing something different. And she was like, you need to give this 100% for at least a month and see what comes out of it. And the rest was history. Took it seriously, was able to start creating content on the LinkedIn platform around sales development. So this is back in 2016, 2017. So if you remember LinkedIn back then, there wasn't anyone creating content at all. It was just resumes. Like it was dark times, to be honest.
It was a ghost town.
It was dark times. And so learned a lot since then, and went on to be a manager of a sales team, the same sales team that I was on, this SDR team. Then I went with John Barrows to do sales training. So that's where I really got my experience. 3.5 years I was there. Google, Slack, Snowflake, Zoom, Salesforce. I trained their BDRs and AE teams on how to like build pipeline. And then when I went off on my own and started AMP, I realized the need, and you see it as well, right? The need, and just people realizing that they need to use LinkedIn, but have no idea where to start. And that's where I guide people today, from taking them from social to selling.
I love that. And you're so right. The platform, it was, like you said, it was a dark time.
I feel like I was in the medieval times, bro. Like I was just like, I don't know what's going on. All I got is a horse, and I hope I can figure it out.
A horse, you got the sword on your back, and it's like the rest is up to you.
That was me.
You would hit the timeline, and it would just be people, a mixture of people kind of like using it like Facebook, and then other people just saying, hey, I've got this job opening, and like a bunch of people applying, and there really wasn't much in between. And the platform does feel like it's changed quite a lot. What for you is that big change? Because I feel like your content, you really touch on a few really interesting things. You've got like personal stories. You've also obviously got like sales content that's more geared towards getting value. Like how have you seen that change?
I can go into 3 big changes if I'm allowed 3. You said 1,
I'd love
but
it.
You can be
Give
like,
me
hey,
3.
I can't do that.
No, let's do 3
here. I don't want to cheat. Okay, so the number one thing, and as you just mentioned it, the personal stories. When 2020, when COVID hit and all the bad things happened, and we know obviously all those things, I think it actually allowed people to be more open though. because they spent time with themselves and they were like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And I think that's when the platform became more open for personal stories. And now I definitely incorporate more personal things on what I'm doing. And I put my mom and dad on there. I talk a lot about that more, and that people receive that a lot. So that's cool. Two is like what we're doing right now, collabs. Dude, 2016, 2019, no one was trying to collab. It was like it was like J. Cole out here. Like, I'm just not really trying to collab with people, right? Like, it just, I don't know what it was. I think people just were like, I'm going to stay in my lane and do my thing. You did not really see that many collabs back in the day. Now, I feel like that's the name of the game. There's certain people, oh, I love collab and I love, having those conversations. My mindset's definitely changed on that, but there wasn't that many collaborations back then for sure. And I think the third thing that I've seen a huge shift in is just the formatting of post. Like the hooks, the rehook, the arrows, the call to action, like that wasn't, it was just like, I have something to say, 10th grade reading level, whatever. You just kind of just put it out there. So I would say those are the big three things that I've seen.
Mm. You're so right. Those are definitely three massive things that have affected it. Do you remember the broetry era on LinkedIn?
I was just telling someone about this the other day. They was like, what's the craziest thing that happened? I was like, broetry, where you'd write like 2 words per line. And they were
Yeah,
like, that happened? I was like, that was an
yeah,
era. Like, that's how we
yeah,
wrote.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's funny because, like people used to make fun of it. And looking back, it was ridiculous. But I also think it kind of woke up the platform a little bit, where it was like, actually, you don't need to be super corporate and post a massive paragraph with huge lines and, like no image or anything like that. You can actually inject a bit of personality. Now, maybe they took it a bit far, and maybe that era, we look back and we kind of cringe a little bit. It's kind of like the 2000s. You look back and you're like, hey, in that time you thought you were really cool, but looking back, it was a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that like just the way that the platform has changed, it's opened up quite a lot, and you even see it with different post formats. And I'd be interested to get your take on this. Like things like carousels, that really wasn't supposed to be a medium for like a carousel. It was like upload a PDF. And I think LinkedIn probably imagined people are going to be sharing, like internal documents or like a kind of deck of some kind. But actually, creators took that and they turned it on its head. So, how much of that do you think has been by kind of interesting creators like yourself looking at the platform saying these are the tools we've got and we're going to almost disrupt it in our own way?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing is like, how can I educate someone differently than how they're currently being educated on this platform? Right. And I think a lot of people, the carousels came from obviously people doing it on other platforms and realizing it worked and then being like, well, if we put on LinkedIn, let's see what happens. People seem to really like them, just like the cheat sheets and infographics. So I think all the top creators, I think we're always thinking about how can we push the envelope? Like I would say back in 2020 to 2022, one of the things I did was LinkedIn Live, and I would go live and I had a show, I had a show called Muffins with Morgan, and I ate muffins and I answered questions. So that's like completely pushing the envelope, right? But
Really?
yeah, it was fun.
Wow.
It was fun. I'm going to bring back a live show, later this year. But it was like that's what people wanted. They wanted a different way to connect, and so I was like, all right, well, I'll just go live and answer people's questions, right? And that was a different element of how to reach that audience. So that's just another example.
Mm. So, like, you being very open and yourself on the platform, I think is a breath of fresh air. Like, I've loved your content for a while, and you even speaking about like the muffins with Morgan, I think that just shows how open you are. Were you always like that? Because I think one of the things that I speak to a load of creators about, or more so people that want to become creators, they have this kind of imposter syndrome about putting themselves out there. And it's like, LinkedIn for me, I've got all my colleagues on there. I might have my alumni from college
Yeah.
and uni and things like that. How does somebody make that big leap into just becoming like completely unashamed of who they are and being themselves on the platform?
Yeah, so I wasn't always like that. I kept a lot of things to my chest, and like I was talking about a little bit earlier, I was like, I just really wanted to focus on how can I just give tactical information and like not go anything beyond that. But to a point, especially with AI now, because obviously AI wasn't back then, but if you think about it now, if you just share tactical information, there isn't anything that actually separates you from just an AI bot, to be honest, at this point. Like it's like, all right, cool, you gave me some tactics that you could have easily just gotten off the AI. So
Yes.
you have no relatability, you have no stories. And so I think that's what it was like for me. Like after 3 years of sharing, I was like, I wasn't really sharing like who I was. And when you start sharing elements of who you are, people start connecting you with those things just by default. And they feel like, all right, this is a person I can like truly follow. I can also trust their information because they're also willing to be a little bit personal with me. Now, I think you can be overboard with being too personal. That like that's a different type of conversation. But for me, where I got comfortable is I realized that like I'm here to impact people, and the best way to do that is to share people where you're at in your journey, so they can be feel as relatable to you as possible, so they can take that information to execute. That's why I share about my pickleball updates. That's why I share about like video games. That's why I share about like, hey, me and my parents went here. I took my dad here because those are like special moments of why we're doing this in the first
Mm.
place, right? Of getting to those experiences and having those moments, right? Because people can like, oh yeah, like I'm aiming for that type of moment, right? And so that's when I decided to make that leap and just be fully immersed in it as much as possible.
I love that. I love that. And do you see that translate into revenue? Because I think that's the thing that people see is they kind of like, work towards getting likes and they work towards getting engagement. Maybe they do, but then it's like, dude, how much money did you make last month? And it's like you get a bunch of creators who are really, really prominent on the platform, but they're just not converting. Now, I know for you, it's the complete opposite. You actually do convert and you do turn that attention into actual value. How do you do that? What's the big secret?
Yeah, so it's just Pareto. You could use Pareto's principle. If you're going to be a little bit more outweighted, you could do 70-30. But Pareto's principle, right? Pareto's law is always 80-20. So if you just want to keep it super simple, 80% of your post should be very tactical. You should be educating the audience. You should be teaching people. 20% is like a little peek under the hood. My friend, so the 2016, 2019, when I was like super, super tactical, it was like it was like 99% tactical, like 1% personal. And 1% personal is like, I'm going to work, right? So my friend one day was like, you need to like take off the cape. Then I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, this is actually a really good visual for people. If you want people to follow you, if you want people to, I don't even call it followers, support you. So instead of followers, I call them supporters. So if you want people to support you, you have to also give them the vision that it's possible to get to the level that you are currently at. So if you're like a superhero, that means like, all right, you're literally like in another galaxy and I can't see you. So everything you're telling me, I actually probably can't do it. I don't think it's actually possible. Versus like you want to be the guide. You want to be like on the path to this mountain that you want to get to, and you're a little bit ahead of that person, but at least they can still see you. And that was the conversation we had, is that like your job as a creator is to be a guide. It's like I might be a little bit ahead of you, but like you can at least see me. But if you're acting like a superhero, then it's like it's unattainable. Then like I actually don't want to follow you because it's annoying. It's like you're just too good. Like I don't even want to do this, right? When it comes back to revenue, 100%. So like again, I'm bringing this up again. Pickleball. This is so random. I like posted about a pickleball update. Someone that was a potential client was like, "Hey, so yeah, I saw your pickleball update. I want to send you like a pickleball paddle, a shirt." And I was like, all right, cool. And like, but
Count me
that
in.
also re-sparked the conversation to close the deal, right? Because they messaged me about pickleball. So like, and I've gotten people saying, hey, like, we'll fly you out to do a pickleball tournament for our tech. And I'm like, this is crazy. But the thing is like, because I post about pickleball, that creates relatability. When I get on calls with people, they know that I play it, so that builds a little bit more rapport. So like these are things that I actually do, right? That lead into more of the value that I have, and I could seed it in across the way. So that's another way of thinking about it.
That. And I think when you're doing sales calls, there's this concept of like the pattern interrupt, right? Which is that
Exactly.
you don't want to get into the boring, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? What's the weather
Yeah.
like? Because you almost just go into like a preset state of, I'm not interested. I'm already thinking about what time this call ends. Versus you do interesting topics. You speak about pickleball. You speak about like, I was holidaying with my family last week or whatever. Like something that's unique and relatable. Suddenly their brain is just firing neurons in a whole different direction. So
Yep.
I think you're 100% right. And I know that you've spoken about when you speak to B2B teams, there is this concept of people or teams using less than 20% of the potential of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested to know what you feel like the most valuable feature is that people are sleeping on.
On LinkedIn right now, if I had to pick one, I'd say profile views. I think that's actually the most under leveraged thing that people don't use. So let's just say if you have like a thousand profile views, probably out of the 1,000, you probably have, I think they do it in the last 90 days. So you probably have 30% that are within your ICP. So if you convert 10% of that, that's 3 meetings. I'm being super conservative. So I think a lot of people don't just look at who's viewing their profile. And you also want to make sure, are the right people viewing my profile, right? Because if you're selling and then you have the wrong ICP viewing your profile, that means your profile page is wrong. You're reaching out to the wrong people in general. The content you're engaging with is incorrect. You should see a consistent stream of that. So that's what I look at. Even at this stage, I still look at and say, like, are the right people even coming to my profile? The right people even engaging with the overall content? Because if they're not, I need to switch a couple things. But like, that's the thing, is that like profile views is under leveraged because you can see the person, you can connect either directly with them or send them a message, and then you're off to the races.
People do look at their profile views. Like it's everyone has that kind of like, I want to know who's looking at me. And when they see that
Yeah,
important person who's hit their profile, it actually does send a pretty strong signal.
exactly. So for everyone, at the end of the week, just look at your profile views. You'll be shocked and surprised how many people view your profile. And you're like, wait, whoa, so and so viewed it. And like, I know based on how I create certain content and what I do, how my profile views are going to increase if I'm doing the right stuff. I'm like, cool, it's increasing. That means we're doing the right stuff with the right people. If it's decreasing, it's like, okay, I might be missing the mark. So it's just things to know.
And I think you probably have so much wealth of understanding into the things that make LinkedIn tick because you've been on this platform through all of these different stages and eras. You've had
Yeah.
to move with the times. You wouldn't be successful right now if you hadn't moved with the times. And there are a lot of creators that, in 2010 or 2012 were popping, but they've just slowly, their value's gone down. And it's about learning how to adapt. And I think that's the most important thing. Now, I know that you have your AMP framework, and I really want to
Yeah.
understand a little bit more about that and kind of what makes it different to what sales teams are doing. So maybe you could just dive a little bit into the AMP framework and what that kind of edges that you get through that.
Yeah. So I just did a workshop on this the other day, and working with actually marketing leaders and sales leaders on this, because I believe it's not just a sales team approach. Like, you need the revenue organization to be locked in on LinkedIn to get the most out of it if your buyer's there. There's 1 billion users, 1 to 3% of people post on the platform. Most people don't use it as a conversion channel. It's huge if you know what you're doing. So the AMP social system is called the 5 C's. Make it super simple, right? It's clarity, connect, conversations, comment, and then content. And you'll see how marketing and sales plays within that. We can dive deeper into that, but that's the 5 C's. And if you follow those 5 C's, that's how I started my own profile. As I reverse engineer what I did, that was it. And as I'm giving it to other people, like, if you just follow these 5 C's, you'll be successful. And then that's how they see that success.
I love that. I think if you break down anyone's successful strategy, it sits within those 5 C's for sure. And for me, like I know that commenting is one of those things that has so much value. Not only do you show up on that individual's timeline, you then show up to their audience. Again, like if you comment on somebody's post, it will push that out to people in your network. They're like this, Morgan's engaging. We need to show that to more people. So there is so much value in that. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that, like getting people to appreciate that, like you said, 1, 2, 3% of the total amount of people on LinkedIn are posting. That is a potential. That is an opportunity for you to come in and say, I'm going to be part of that select few and I'm going to stand out on the platform. And I think the biggest thing is LinkedIn rewards people who make their platform better. If you're making their platform better, they're going
Yeah,
to make you famous. They're going to put you out there. They're going to get you seen more. They're going to get you more opportunities
exactly.
and ultimately more revenue. So yeah, so much value in that. What do you think about people that might say, like, I understand the 5 C's. I get that that's important. I'm also a C-suite individual, or I'm somebody who has my own business and I just don't have time for that. What do you say to somebody who kind of has that approach? Is it something that they need to do themselves? Are there systems or tools that they can use, or is it something they can outsource to somebody else? Or
Yeah.
what's the best way for people to stay on top of that?
Well, it depends on where the business owner is at. Like, if you're sub 1 million in revenue, you absolutely have time for the 5 C's for sure. If you're a C-suite executive, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and do, right? If you're at a Fortune 100 company, that might be different than if you're an executive at a startup that has 20 people, right? Again, it just depends on where you're at and what you're looking to accomplish versus if you don't have time for it. You most likely do. But what I would say is the 5 C's are all just based on steps. They're not based on time invested. Time invested is based on your outcome. So the actually the first C is the most important because everybody should have this, which is clarity. So like most people will go on the platform, right, and just say, I'm gonna go find someone who creates really good content and we just need to go viral. And I'm like, but what does that even mean? Like, you just want to go viral just cuz, like, I get it, it's cool, but like, what does that actually mean? So clarity, every single person needs to go through to figure out, what do you want to be known for? Who on our team's creating content? Why are they creating content? What are our content pillars? Like, that should be a process for everybody, right? And then if you think about connecting, it's like, well, if you're going to create content on this platform, if you're going to build a book of business, you should be connecting with 40 to 50 people every single day. And I say 50, 25 in the morning, 25 in the afternoon. That doesn't take that much long to do. If you think about conversations, I say, okay, at minimum, do 10 personalized conversations a day, 10 personalized videos, 10 text based, 10 voice notes, whatever, right? That doesn't take that long to do. Commenting, do 10 to 20 comments per day. That's also not that hard to do. It takes you 20 minutes to do. So, and then we get to content, which I recommend people take one day out of the month, take a half day, create your content for the month. You only need 3 posts a week to start. So that's what, 12 posts. You should be able to write 12 type of posts within half a day. So all the stuff around I don't have time, you have time. You just have to think about it in small increments, not like massive increments. Don't go on the platform and be like, I'm going to do 100 messages a day, 100 comments a day. Like, you're not going to be able to do that because you're going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. So less is more.
Less is more when you start, right? Because it's about building blocks, right? It's about building blocks, not starting off immediately. You don't go in the gym and say, I'm going to do a 250-pound bench press. You would die. So like you have to stack. You have to casually get there.
I like that. You got to put the reps in. I think one of the things that I've seen is like individuals that try and create content and they kind of they come to LinkedIn. They're like, okay, I understand the importance of content. I've been seeing Morgan's posts. I've been seeing individuals who are killing it on the platform speak about the importance of content. Then they're kind of given this huge blank page of, enter post here, and they have absolutely no idea where to start. And I think what's so interesting about you and your content is a lot of times you'll break down almost like the psychological principles of what makes a great post, or at least I can see those principles being used. Maybe you could just break down kind of the anatomy of a successful post for somebody who's trying to go out there and create content on the platform. What's the process for making that happen?
So every post follows 4 things every single time. It's, do you have a good hook? Is there a good rehook? The meat, the value, whatever, like the promise, Alex Rosie calls it the promise, and then the call to action. That's actually it. Like, most piece of content, it literally is just those 4 things. People will overcomplicate it. They'll give you like more elaborate things. It's just those 4. I've done and looked at enough posts to know it's literally just the 4 every single time. So now within those things, there's humor, there's like, ways to hook people in, there's psychological nature. Now the thing is, the next part is, okay, how do you create a good post? You need to know who you're talking to, which goes back to clarity, a part of the 5 C's, because if you don't know who you're talking to, the post won't be good anyways. So you want to know, am I talking to a director of IT? Am I talking to a CISO? Am I talking to sales leaders? Am I talking to a rep? Like, whatever it may be. The other thing that you want to look at is, who are other people in my space that are creating good content that are my peers that I want to similarly be like? Just look at their hooks. That's it. Just look at how they actually do their hooks, and then look at their call to action. You're probably not going to be able to mimic their actual like value of what they're bringing, the meat, because that's uniquely them. But you really want to look at those hooks to get started. When you look at those hooks, I've looked at most of them. Most successful hooks are less than 9 words, and they're one-liners. So you want to make sure your hook follows within that trend. A rehook typically has the parentheses around it, and it says like it brings people back. So an example of that would be like, I booked 5 meetings last week. These strategies you've never heard anywhere else. All right, cool. Now I'm hooked in. What does he mean? Right. And then you go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are examples of a really good post. If you're in the education space, which probably most people are, because there's 2 types of content, education, entertainment. So if you're on the education space, less than 9 words in the hook, rehook them with the parentheses or something that would draw them back in there, or say save this for later or whatever, and then go right into listicle format. 1, 2, 3. Power of threes is best. I would say 1, explain what that point means. 2, explain what that point means. 3, explain what the point means. Call to action, PS. Make the PS a yes or no so it's easy to answer. Don't make it super complicated. Don't be like, how does this compare to the equilibrium of your status of the today? Like, that's too complicated. So that's just, you want to keep it simple. That's like how to start. Because we can go deeper, obviously, but that's how to start.
Yeah, I think you've just, I mean, there's so much value there, and it's almost hard to work out where to go from it, because I think you've just basically spoken about how do you convey as much value in almost the shortest amount of time possible. And yeah, we use terms like hooks, we use all these different kind of formulas, and every creator who's selling a course will tell you that their method is the way that you need to be writing posts, and if you don't write it this way, you're not going to get engagement. Ultimately, it's human nature. It's like, can you capture that attention? Can you keep them interested? And then can you kind of offer them something that's going to give them potential value in the future? And that's kind of the call to action. And that doesn't change. That's just human nature, right? Like that's been with us since we were the dawn of creation.
Exactly. So if you focus on that, that's where you're going to get that success.
Love that. Morgan, before we wrap up, I would love to do a lightning round of questions for you. 4 questions, super quick. All right, let's go. So, first question. If LinkedIn disappeared tomorrow, which social platform would you pivot to and why?
YouTube. That's easy. I'm already making that move right now because I got hacked. I got hacked last year and I almost lost my account. So this question has almost happened. So I was like, we got to switch it up. So that's why I'm investing a lot into YouTube right now.
You're given 1 hour with a struggling sales rep who needs a meeting this week or they're fired. What's your LinkedIn emergency protocol?
Wait, this is that'd be like a fun content series.
And they actually get fired?
Yeah, well, no, they're not going to get fired. If they're talking to me, we're not going to get fired. That's okay. So we're doing some CRM work. So we're going to go in and figure out what deals died, what meetings were rescheduled on you, who ghosted you. Those are the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit. So we would just spend time inside of the CRM to figure out, did you lose touch on accounts? We can go reactive. Are there people that said reach out in X amount of months so we can reactive? So I go deep in the CRM, and then I would say, okay, we need to go on LinkedIn. We need to do some videos, some voice notes, make some calls, and we'll be able to book a meeting within that hour.
Love it. Meeting in the hour. I can see that happening for sure. Okay. Most controversial opinion about LinkedIn sales that would get you uninvited from a sales conference.
Ooh.
Spicy.
This is really uninvited from the sales conference. Okay. Uninvited from the sales conference. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one because a lot of people get a tizzy about this one as of late. I don't really know why. So, and I say this and I still get invited, so I guess maybe it's against the point of it, but I see a lot of people get upset by it. I think a lot of people on social, unfortunately, have gotten too caught up that every single person before you reach out, you have to comment on their posts or engage with them. But that actually doesn't logically make any sense. Only 1 to 3% of people post on LinkedIn out of 1 billion users. So it's impossible. And I just don't like this advice, to be honest, to say before you reach out, you need to comment and engage. On what? If this person hasn't posted ever, how am I supposed to do that? So I'm starting to not like this advice because it's not rooted in reality of what sales is. If I have something to offer you and I am relevant, I'm going to reach out to you. I don't care if you think that it's a pitch or not. So when I connect with someone, I send a blank connection request. Most people are like, that's not personal enough. It doesn't matter. If you have a good headline and your company is legit, so to some degree, they're going to accept you higher than a personalized one. Because what are you personalizing? They haven't posted anything, so you have nothing. Now, you could go do some research in the back end, but if they have nothing, you're only left with relevant-based messaging or a blank request. And relevant-based messaging based on persona. The persona-based messaging might be seen as spam because everyone else is doing that. So just send the blank one. As long as you have a good headline, you're fine. Then I say, wait 2 days, send them a video. Hey, the reason I'm reaching out is for this. Here's the value. And then I ask a question that sparks a conversation. That, to me, is what you should be doing. But most people would uninvite me for that because they want to send a personalized connection request. They want to wait 5 years to reach out. And I'm like, That just isn't the reality of the situation for salespeople. If you're a business owner and you're doing different stuff, maybe, but like if you're a salesperson, you don't have time to wait around. That's just the reality of the quota. So I'm just rooted in reality on that one.
I love that. We do not have time for that. Just send the send the request and let's get it over with.
Let's
Okay,
just you know why you reach out to the person. Just reach out. So that's my thing.
for sure. Okay, last one. Let's make it a banger. Complete this sentence. The future of B2B sales will be dominated.
In-person events. So I think you probably expected me to say LinkedIn. And I believe that's the second answer there. But I would say in-person events because, and again, this is fresh off what I was talking to the AI guy about. He's like, this is a really interesting perspective I'm going to share with y'all. And it really has me thinking now. So this is just, my answer would have been different if I didn't talk to this guy. He said, think about AI right now. AI at some point is going to be able to do really good videos like we're doing right now at some point. It's going to be really good at writing. It's going to be really good at communicating. And it's going to be probably really good at sales. So he's like, what would be the point of any of you all doing any of this at the end of the day? I'm like, okay, just something to consider. I'm like, okay, I get it. But he's like, people are going to get so annoyed that everything is AI because they're going to figure it out. The messaging is AI that people will just like not be as active on social. This was his point. And I was like, I could see that. So, but then he was like, but then I was like, okay, so if no one goes on social, what's next? What do you mean? And he said, well, in person would see an uptick because people would want to actually see people in person. So I think the future of B2B sales is, to a degree, if we're looking in the next 2-5 years, I'd say LinkedIn. Like you need to understand LinkedIn and get the most of it. But if I'm looking like beyond that and the actual future, what you should be doing is you actually should be focusing on how to build real relationships and find in-person things. So the second answer really is LinkedIn because you should be leveraging LinkedIn to build relationships in B2B because that's the highest reach you can have, and YouTube, but LinkedIn. I could reach as many people as possible on LinkedIn by posting, connecting, DMing, etc. Right? Like without LinkedIn, we wouldn't know each other, right, at all. So that helps. But then the next layer is in person. Because if I meet you in person, that connection is even higher. If the connection is higher, you're more likely to trust me and you're more likely to do business with me. So I think the future actually is in person. The segue is actually LinkedIn and social, but the real future is actually, or how you connect to people in person. I think it's going to inverse versus where everyone used to travel for sales. People went digital. I think it's going to go back to like people are going to want to go in person and have communication and have conversation. So it's like, do the social things now so that you can build relationships digitally that you then can bring them in person. This is a fresh thought after I had the conversation with that guy. I was like, I could kind of see that.
I can 100% see that. It's all going to go full circle. Morgan, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. So for our viewers who are listening, they're loving what you're hearing and they want to just understand a little bit more about the AMP framework and maybe how they
Yeah.
can implement it themselves. How can they get in touch with you? How can they get started?
Yeah, so if my AI talk didn't scare you or the 5 C's didn't scare you, or I'm on YouTube, I just talked about it, Morgan J. Ingram, you can check me out there. More longer form videos on how to actually do LinkedIn lead generation and content and some sales stuff's on there too. And then obviously I'm on LinkedIn. If you have any further questions for me there as well. And if you just want to hear me just like say random stuff, you can check me out on X too.
Put all those links in the description so people can find you. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us on Creators Who Convert.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.